The impossible request the cargo bay of the Resilience echoed with the sound of metal crates being secured for transport. Captain Alina Rodriguez wiped sweat from her forehead as she checked the manifest one final time. Medical supplies for the outer colonies, synthetic food processors, and 3 tons of Earth coffee beans destined for the Nexus Station diplomatic quarters. It was routine work, but Alina loved the freedom of space and the independence that came with running her own ship. "Alina, you need to see this," called Dr. Marcus Chen from the engineering section. Marcus wasn't technically an engineer, but his background in quantum physics made him invaluable when their aging systems needed creative fixes. He had joined Elena's crew 2 years ago after leaving a prestigious research position on Earth, claiming he was tired of theoretical work and wanted to see the practical applications of quantum mechanics in space. Alina made her way through the cramped corridors of her ship. The Resilience was a modified Starling-class freighter, built for reliability rather than comfort. Every surface showed years of honest work, scratches and patches that told stories of successful deliveries across dangerous space lanes. The ship was small by galactic standards, only requiring a crew of 3. But Alina wouldn't trade it for the finest passenger liner in the fleet. "What's the problem, Marcus?" she asked, finding him hunched over a diagnostic panel. "No problem, actually. I'm reading some interesting quantum fluctuations near Nexus Station. It's nothing dangerous, but the patterns are unlike anything I've seen before. Almost like there's something out there that's actively manipulating quantum fields." Zara Vex emerged from the hydroponics bay, dirt still clinging to her hands. As the ship's medic and botanist, she maintained their small garden that provided fresh food and helped recycle their air. Zara had been with Alina the longest, ever since they had both left the Colonial Medical Service following a disagreement about corporate policies in frontier medicine. "Are we talking about alien technology?" Zara asked, washing her hands in the small sink. "And because my plants have been acting strange for the past few hours, the quantum-sensitive varieties are showing stress responses I've never seen before." Before Alina could respond, their communication system crackled to life. "Cargo Vessel Resilience. This is Nexus Station Control. Please respond immediately. Priority 1 diplomatic message." Alina frowned. Priority 1 messages were reserved for emergency situations involving galactic security. She activated the CUM system.
"Access control.
This is Captain Rodriguez of the Resilience. Receiving you clear. Captain Rodriguez, please alter course for immediate docking at Bay 94. You have a diplomatic passenger requesting immediate transport. This is not optional." Alina exchanged glances with her crew. Diplomatic passengers usually traveled on luxury ships with proper security and amenities, not on cargo freighters. "Nexus Control, I think there's been a mistake. We're not equipped for diplomatic transport. We barely have guest quarters." "No mistake, Captain. The passenger specifically requested your vessel. Nexus Administrator Crystal will brief you upon arrival, sending new flight path now." The communication ended, leaving the 3 humans staring at each other in confusion. Alina had never heard of a diplomatic passenger specifically requesting a cargo ship, especially one as unremarkable as theirs. 2 hours later, the Resilience was secured in one of Nexus Station's smaller docking bays. Alina led her crew through the airlock into the station's gleaming corridors. Nexus Station served as a neutral meeting ground for dozens of alien species, and its architecture reflected this diversity. Crystalline Zephyrian structures grew alongside metallic Corvin engineering, while holographic Vorathon art displays floated through the air. Administrator Crystal waited for them in his office, his 4 arms moving in nervous patterns that Alina recognized as a sign of stress among his people. The Nexari were typically calm and logical, making his agitation even more concerning. "Captain Rodriguez, thank you for coming quickly. I must tell you that what I am about to share with you is classified at the highest levels of galactic security." Crystal's translator device rendered his clicking speech into perfect English. "Have you heard of the Ethereal Collective?" Alina shook her head, but Marcus stepped forward. "I've read about them in theoretical journals. They're supposed to have transcended physical form centuries ago, existing as pure quantum consciousness. Most scientists consider them a myth. They're very real, Dr. Chen, and they are dying." Crystal activated a holographic display showing a region of space Elena didn't recognize. 3 months ago, the Ethereal Collective made contact with the Galactic Council for the first time in 500 years. They revealed that their entire civilization is being consumed by what they call a quantum plague, a cascading failure in their quantum consciousness matrix that threatens to destroy every member of their species. Zara leaned forward.
Ow.
Many of them are there? Approximately 50 billion conscious entities? Dr. Vex. The ethereals exist as quantum patterns that can occasionally take physical form when necessary. They have been the unseen guardians of this region of space for millennia, preventing wars and guiding younger species toward peaceful development. If they die, the political stability of 17 star systems could collapse. Alina was beginning to understand why this was classified. What does this have to do with us? The ethereals have sent an emissary to negotiate for help. Princess? Lyrina Kethver has taken physical form to search for a cure to their plague. She has been offered transport by every major species in the galaxy. The Zephyrians provided their fastest diplomatic courier. The Korrivans offered a full battle fleet escort. And the Vorthines prepared their most luxurious passenger ship. Let me guess, Marcus said dryly. She turned them all down. Correct. Princess Lorona has refused every offer of transport except one. She specifically requested passage aboard your ship, Captain Rodriguez. When asked why, she would only say that humans possess something her people need, something that other species lack. Alina felt a chill run down her spine. Where does she need to go? The Archive World, a legendary planet that supposedly contains the collected knowledge of the first civilization to achieve quantum consciousness.
Ow.
Most scientists believe it's a myth, but the princess insists it's real and that it holds the key to saving her people. Zara was studying the star charts displayed around them. The Archive World is supposed to be somewhere in the quantum storm region. No ship has ever successfully navigated those space lanes. The quantum distortions would tear apart any vessel long before it reached its destination. Perhaps Krikstal said carefully, that is why the princess specifically requested human transport. Your species has shown a remarkable ability to adapt to situations that confound more advanced civilizations. You mean we're too primitive to be affected by quantum storms? Lena asked, not sure whether to be insulted or intrigued. Not primitive, Captain. Different human neural patterns contain what quantum physicists call beneficial chaos, random elements that allow for creative problem-solving under extreme conditions. More advanced species have evolved beyond such randomness, making them more predictable but less adaptable.
Oh.
Marcus was nodding slowly. Quantum consciousness would be incredibly sensitive to interference. If the ethereals exist as pure quantum patterns, then proximity to other quantum-based technologies might cause harmful resonance effects. Human technology is still largely based on electromagnetic principles rather than quantum manipulation. Exactly, Dr. Chen. The princess's own words were that humans think like the quantum storms themselves, chaotically but purposefully. Alina looked at her crew. Seeing the same mixture of excitement and apprehension in their faces that she felt herself, this was far beyond anything they had ever attempted, but the implications were staggering. An entire civilization was depending on them. When do we meet the princess? She asked. Krikstal's relief was visible. She is waiting in the diplomatic suite. I should warn you that ethereals in physical form can be unsettling to other species. Their quantum nature makes them appear somewhat translucent, and they tend to phase in and out of visibility when their concentration wavers. The diplomatic suite was unlike anything Alina had ever seen. The walls seemed to bend and flow like liquid crystal, and the lighting shifted colors and patterns that hurt to look at directly. In the center of the room stood a figure that took Elena's breath away. Princess Lorena Kethver appeared to be roughly humanoid, but her skin had a translucent quality that revealed flowing patterns of light beneath the surface. Her hair moved as if she were underwater, and her eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. When she moved, she left brief after-images that faded slowly, as if reality needed time to catch up with her presence. Captain Rodriguez, the princess said, her voice seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I am grateful you agreed to meet with me. I know this request must seem strange to you, Alina found her voice. Your Highness, I have to ask, why us? We're just a cargo ship crew. Surely there are better qualified people to help you. Princess Lorona smiled, an expression that rippled across her translucent features like light on water. That is exactly why I need you, Captain. For the past 3 months, I have studied every species in this region of space, searching for those who might be able to help my people. What I found was that the more advanced a civilization becomes, the more rigid their thinking becomes. They solve problems by applying known solutions in predictable ways. She gestured to Marcus. Dr. Chen, your people discovered quantum mechanics by accident while trying to understand something completely different. Your species has a talent for finding unexpected connections between unrelated concepts. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Your Highness, I'm flattered, but quantum physics is hardly unique to humans anymore. Every spacefaring species has mastered quantum technology. Mastered, yes, but not in the same way. When a Zephyrian encounters a quantum anomaly, they apply mathematical formulas and establish protocols. When a human encounters the same anomaly, they might try 17 different approaches that shouldn't work, according to known science. And one of them usually does work, even if no one understands why. Zara stepped forward. Your Highness, we're willing to help, but we need to understand what we're getting into. This quantum plague affecting your people, is there any danger to us? The princess's expression grew sad. The plague cannot affect physical beings directly, Dr. Vex, but I will not lie to you about the dangers you will face. The journey to the archive world will take us through regions of space where quantum storms rage constantly. These storms would instantly destroy any ship that relies heavily on quantum technology. Your ship, however, uses what other species consider primitive electromagnetic systems. You're saying our primitive technology is actually an advantage? Alina asked. More than an advantage, Captain. It may be the only reason this mission is possible. Quantum storms react to quantum consciousness and quantum technology, becoming more violent when they detect such things. Human technology should be largely invisible to them. Alina was beginning to understand. In human minds, human consciousness contains natural quantum chaos that mimics the patterns of the storms themselves. You should be able to navigate through them by instinct rather than calculation. The implications were staggering. Humanity's apparent technological backwardness compared to other species might actually be their greatest strength in this situation. Alina thought about all the times human crews had solved problems through creative improvisation while there. Alien counterparts stood baffled by the illogical solutions that somehow worked. How long do your people have? Alina asked quietly. At the current rate of quantum decay, perhaps 6 months? Each day we lose thousands of consciousness patterns. That can never be recovered. My people have existed for over 10,000 years, Captain Rodriguez. We have seen civilizations rise and fall, guided younger species toward wisdom, and maintained peace in this region of space. If we die, the knowledge and stability we have provided will die with us. Alina looked at Marcus and Zara, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt building in her chest. This was bigger than any cargo run they had ever undertaken. This was about proving that humanity belonged among the stars, that their unique way of thinking and problem-solving had value beyond simple freight delivery. When do we leave? Lena asked. Princess Lyrina's entire form seemed to brighten with hope, immediately if possible. Every day of delay means more of my people fade into quantum dissolution. Give us 2 hours to prep the ship and file our flight plan, Your Highness. I hope you're right about human unpredictability because we're about to find out just how creative we can be when the impossible is the only option. As they left the diplomatic suite, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would change everything, not just for the dying ethereal civilization, but for humanity's place in the galactic community. They were about to prove that. Sometimes the best tool for solving an impossible problem is the willingness to try solutions that shouldn't work. The Resilience had never carried such important cargo, and Alina prayed that their ship and crew would be enough to save an entire Yedi civilization from extinction. The quantum storm journey, the departure from Nexus Station, was unlike anything Alina had ever experienced. As Princess Leorona Kethfer came aboard the Resilience, the ship's systems began displaying readings that Marcus had never seen before. Quantum fluctuation monitors that normally showed steady, predictable patterns now danced with chaotic energy signatures. "Is this normal?" Lena asked, watching her instrument panels flicker with new information. "Nothing about this is normal," Marcus replied, his eyes glued to his quantum sensors. "The princess's presence is creating localized quantum fields throughout the ship, but strangely our systems seem to be adapting to it. Look at this, our engines are actually running more efficiently than they have in months." Princess Leorona had taken residence in their small guest quarters, though residence might not have been the right word. She seemed to exist in a constant state of controlled quantum flux, sometimes solid enough to interact with physical objects, other times becoming nearly transparent as her consciousness drifted between dimensions. "Captain Rodriguez, the princess," said her voice carrying through the ship's communication system without using any actual transmitter. "I should explain the nature of our journey before we enter the storm region. The quantum storms are not simply meteorological phenomena. They are living expressions of quantum consciousness itself." Zara looked up from her botanical readings. Since the princess had come aboard, her quantum-sensitive plants had begun growing at an accelerated rate, their leaves shifting through color spectrums that didn't exist in normal space. "Living? You mean the storms are actually alive?" "In a sense, yes. They are fragments of quantum consciousness that became separated from their original forms eons ago. They exist in a state of perpetual confusion and anger, lashing out at anything that reminds them of what they once were. Quantum technology and quantum consciousness trigger violent responses because they represent what the storm fragments have lost." Alina was beginning to understand the scope of the challenge ahead. "So we're flying through regions of space populated by angry quantum ghosts?" "That is surprisingly accurate, Captain. Your ability to grasp complex concepts through simple analogies is one of the traits that makes humans uniquely suited for this mission." Marcus had been studying the navigation charts for the storm region. "Your Highness, according to these readings, the quantum distortions in this area should make normal navigation impossible. Stellar positions shift constantly, space itself becomes fluid, and time flows at different rates in different locations. How are we supposed to find the archive world in conditions like that?" "By doing what humans do best, Dr. Chen, adapting and improvising. Traditional navigation relies on fixed reference points and mathematical calculations. In the quantum storms, such approaches fail because the fundamental nature of space-time becomes mutable. However, human intuition operates on quantum principles that mirror the storm patterns themselves." Alina felt a chill of excitement mixed with terror. "You're saying we navigate by feel? More than that, you navigate by embracing the same chaotic creativity that the storms represent. Where other species see random destruction, humans have the ability to perceive underlying patterns and connections." 3 hours after leaving Nexus Station, they reached the edge of the quantum storm region. Lena had expected some kind of visible boundary, but the transition was subtle at first. The stars began to flicker slightly, their light shifting through spectrums that created an aurora effect across their view screen. "Quantum interference is increasing," Marcus reported, "but our systems are still functioning normally. If anything, they're performing better than expected." Then the real storms hit. Space itself began to writhe around them like a living thing. Stars appeared and disappeared, creating constellations that lasted only seconds before dissolving into new patterns. The ship's hull groaned as gravitational fields shifted unpredictably, and Alina had to constantly adjust their course to avoid spatial distortions that appeared without warning. "This is impossible," Zara said, watching her instruments register readings that contradicted each other from second to second. "According to our sensors, we're simultaneously moving forward at normal speed and traveling backward through time." "Don't!" "Trust the instruments," Princess Leorona advised. "Trust your instincts. Feel the currents of quantum probability and follow the paths that feel right, even if they make no logical sense." Alina found herself gripping the ship's controls with an intensity she had never experienced before. Instead of relying on her instruments, she began to pilot by intuition, following subtle sensations that seemed to pull her in certain directions. It was like navigating by the feeling of wind on her face, except the wind was made of probability and possibility. "Alina, you're amazing," Marcus said in wonder. "Look at our course plot. You're threading us through quantum distortions that should be impossible to detect, let alone avoid." "I can't explain it," Alina replied, her hands moving across the controls in patterns that felt natural, despite defying everything she had learned about piloting. "It's like the ship is telling me where to go." The deeper they traveled into the storm region, the more surreal their journey became. At one point, they passed through an area where time flowed backward, and they watched their own ship approach from the opposite direction before the timeline corrected itself with a reality-bending twist that left them all dizzy. Another time, they encountered a region where space had somehow become two-dimensional, compressing their ship into a flat plane for several terrifying minutes before normal dimensionality reasserted itself. Throughout it all, Princess Leorona remained calm, her quantum consciousness serving as a stabilizing influence that helped their human minds process the impossible experiences. "How are we surviving this?" Zara asked, during a brief period of relative calm. "Everything I know about physics says we should have been torn apart hours ago." "You are surviving because you are not fighting the storms," the princess explained. "Other species would try to shield themselves with quantum barriers or force their way through with brute power. Humans are instead dancing with the chaos, becoming part of it rather than opposing it." Marcus was studying readings from his modified sensors. "I think I understand. The quantum storms recognize us as kindred spirits. Our neural patterns create quantum chaos similar to their own, so they're not attacking us. We're like ... quantum camouflage." "More than camouflage, Dr. Chen. You are speaking their language." Each time Captain Rodriguez makes an intuitive navigation choice, she is essentially communicating with the storm consciousness, telling them that you understand their nature and respect their power. The revelation was staggering. Lena wasn't just piloting through the storms, she was having a conversation with them. Her instinctive course corrections were responses to the quantum entity's attempts to guide them toward their destination. On the second day of their journey through the storms, they encountered their first real danger. A massive quantum vortex appeared directly in their path, its swirling energies creating a gravitational field that threatened to tear their ship apart. Elena's instruments screamed warnings as they were pulled inexorably toward the destructive phenomenon. "I can't pull away," Elena said through gritted teeth, fighting against forces that dwarfed her ship's engines.
Ow.
"The gravitational distortion is too strong." "Don't fight it, Princess," Leorana said urgently. "The vortex is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to communicate. Listen to what it is telling you." Alina forced herself to relax her death grip on the controls. Instead of fighting against the pull of the vortex, she began to feel for the subtler currents within its chaotic energies. Gradually, she began to sense a pattern. The vortex was rotating in a complex spiral that created brief windows of calm within its structure. "I need to dive into it," Alina said, her voice steady, despite the impossibility of what she was proposing. "There's a path through the center, but I have to time it perfectly, Alina. That's suicide," Zara protested. "That thing could collapse our dimensional structure." "No," Marcus said, studying his readings with growing excitement. "She's right. The vortex is creating a stable tunnel through folded spacetime. If we can match its quantum signature exactly, we can ride the tunnel like a subway through several light years of storm region." Alina took a deep breath and surrendered completely to her intuition. She guided the resilience directly into the heart of the quantum vortex, feeling the ship's structure strain as they passed through layers of compressed spacetime. For a moment that lasted both seconds and eternities, they existed in a realm where physics became poetry and the impossible was simply another word for creative thinking. Then they emerged into normal space, having crossed what should have been days of dangerous travel in mere minutes. "Incredible," Princess Lorena said, her translucent form shimmering with what Alina recognized as joy. "You have just accomplished something that no other species would have dared attempt." The vortex entity is pleased with your respectful passage. Vortex entity? Zara asked. The consciousness that created the gravitational phenomenon. These storms are not random, Dr. Vex. They are the dreams and nightmares of quantum beings who have lost their way. By treating them as living entities, rather than obstacles to overcome, you have opened communication channels that have been closed for millennia. Lena was beginning to realize that their mission had implications far beyond saving the ethereal collective. They were pioneering a new kind of relationship between different forms of consciousness, one based on empathy and adaptation, rather than dominance and control. On the third day, they encountered quantum pirates. The attack came without warning. 3 ships materialized out of quantum phase, their hulls crackling with stolen quantum technology that allowed them to exist partially outside normal spacetime. The pirates had been using the storm region as a base of operations, preying on any vessel foolish enough to enter their territory. Unknown ship, prepared to be boarded, came the transmission. Your cargo and passenger belong to us now. Elena's blood ran cold. These weren't ordinary pirates, they were quantum pirates. Beings who had modified themselves with stolen ethereal technology to gain limited quantum consciousness abilities. They would be especially dangerous to Princess Leorona. Options, Elena asked her crew. We have no weapons, Marcus said grimly. Our shields are minimal, and they have quantum phase capabilities that make them nearly invulnerable to conventional attack. Then we don't use conventional attack, Elena replied, an idea forming in her mind. Princess, can you help me communicate with the storm consciousness in this region? Yes, but what do you intend? The pirates are using stolen quantum technology, right? That means they're creating the same kind of quantum disturbances that anger the storms. What if we could convince the storms that the pirates are a threat? Understanding dawned on Princess Leorena's features. You want to turn the quantum storms against the pirates? It is dangerous once aroused. Storm consciousness is difficult to control. Sometimes the best defense is knowing when to ask for help, Elena said, beginning to pilot in the erratic patterns that she had learned constituted communication with the quantum entities. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The space around the pirate ships began to convulse with quantum energy as storm consciousness awakened to the presence of stolen technology. Massive distortions opened in space-time, creating gravitational anomalies that the pirate ships couldn't escape. What is happening? The pirate leader's voice crackled with terror over the communication system. The storms have never reacted like this before. They're reacting to stolen quantum consciousness technology, Elena replied, continuing her complex piloting patterns. The storm entities recognize the quantum signatures you're using as belonging to the ethereal collective. They're defending their territory. Within minutes, the pirate ships were torn apart by the very storms they had thought to use as cover. The quantum consciousness entities, once awakened to the presence of thieves in their domain, showed no mercy. To those who had stolen from their kindred spirits, remarkable, Princess Leorona said as the last pirate ship disappeared into a dimensional fold. You have just demonstrated something that will change galactic understanding of quantum consciousness. The storm entities can be awakened and directed, but only by those who approach them with respect rather than fear. Elena slumped in her pilot's chair, exhausted by the intensity of the quantum communication. How much farther to the archive? World, we are closer than you think, Captain. The vortex passage shortened our journey significantly. If my calculations are correct, we should reach our destination within the next 12 hours. As if responding to her words, the quantum storms around them began to calm. The chaotic energy patterns smoothed into gentler currents, and the flickering stars stabilized into more familiar configurations. Ahead of them, barely visible through the residual storm effects, a single planet hung in space like a jewel carved from crystallized possibility. The archive world, Elena stared at their destination, feeling the weight of responsibility settle. On her shoulders once again, it successfully navigated the impossible journey through the quantum storms, but their real mission was just beginning. Somewhere on that mysterious planet lay the key to saving an entire civilization, and it would be up to her crew to find it. Princess Elena said softly, I hope you're right about humans being good at solving impossible problems. because something tells me the hardest part is still ahead of us. I have complete faith in your abilities, Captain Rodriguez. You have already accomplished things that no other species could have achieved. Whatever challenges await us on the archive world, I believe you will find a way to overcome them. As the Resilience approached the legendary planet, Alina couldn't help but marvel at how far they had come. 3 days ago, they had been simple cargo haulers. Now they were quantum storm navigators, consciousness communicators. And the last hope for an ancient civilization, the transformation was as impossible as everything else about their mission. But Alina was beginning to understand that impossibility was just another word for not yet accomplished by humans. The archive world discovery, the archive world defied every expectation Alina had formed during their approach. From space, it had appeared to be a planet of ordinary size and composition. But as the Resilience descended through its atmosphere, the true nature of their destination became clear. The surface wasn't made of rock and soil, but of crystallized information, vast structures that seemed to be composed entirely of compressed data and memories. These readings can't be right, Marcus said, staring at his instruments in disbelief. According to our sensors, the entire planet's surface is made of quantum storage matrices. It's like the whole world is one enormous computer. Princess Laruna had become more solid during their descent, her translucent form gaining definition as they approached the source of ancient quantum consciousness. The archive world is not a computer, Dr. Chen, though your comparison is understandable. It is a repository of pure thought and experience, created by the first civilization to achieve quantum consciousness over 50,000 years ago. Zara was studying atmospheric readings from her station. The air is breathable, though it contains quantum particles I've never seen before. And Captain, you need to see this. My botanical sensors are detecting plant life. But the energy signatures are completely impossible. Alina brought the ship down in a clearing between two massive crystalline structures that rose like mountains. From the surface, as they settled onto the landing surface, she could see that what she had initially taken for crystal was actually something far more complex. The structures were made of compressed memories and experiences, their surfaces, showing brief flashes of images and sounds from countless civilizations. The archive world was created as a sanctuary for consciousness itself. Princess Larona explained as they prepared to disembark. When the first ones transcended physical existence, they left this place as a gift for those who would follow. Every major achievement in quantum consciousness for the past 50 millennia has been recorded here. Alina led her crew down the ship's ramp, stepping onto the surface of the most mysterious planet in known space. The ground beneath their feet felt solid but somehow alive, as if it were responding to their presence. The air shimmered with barely visible energy patterns, and distant structures pulsed with soft light that seemed to follow rhythms too complex for human minds to fully comprehend. "It's beautiful," Zara whispered, looking around at the impossible architecture, but also terrifying. "I feel like we're walking through the dreams of gods." "In a sense, you are," the princess replied. "The archive contains the accumulated wisdom, an experience of beings who existed as pure consciousness for thousands of years. But be warned, the knowledge here is protected by guardians who test all visitors to ensure they are worthy of accessing such power." Marcus was scanning the area with modified quantum sensors. "I'm detecting massive energy sources throughout the complex, but the patterns are unlike anything in our databases." "Princess, how are we supposed to find the quantum healing device in a place this vast?" "The archive responds to need and intent, Dr. Chen. Those who come seeking knowledge with pure hearts will be guided to what they require. However, the tests can be ... challenging." As if summoned by her words, the first guardian appeared. It materialized from the crystalline ground itself, taking the form of a humanoid figure composed entirely of flowing quantum energy. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from the archive structures themselves. "Visitors from the realm of matter," the guardian said, its form shifting through colors that had no names. "State your purpose in the archive of all consciousness." Alina stepped forward, feeling the weight of responsibility for her crew and for the billions of dying ethereals. "We seek the quantum healing device that can cure the plague affecting the ethereal collective. An entire civilization is dying, and we've been told that only the archive holds the knowledge to save them. The Guardian studied them with senses that perceived far more than mere physical appearance. You are humans, a young species that has barely begun to understand consciousness itself. What makes you believe you are capable of handling archive? Knowledge. Because we're too ignorant to know it's impossible, Elena replied honestly. Your Highness told us that humans think differently from other species. Maybe that difference is what's needed here. The Guardian's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. Interesting. Most visitors attempt to prove their worthiness through demonstrations of knowledge or power. You offer ignorance as a qualification. Paused, seeming to consider. Very well. You will be tested, but not in the ways other species expect. Follow it. The Guardian led them through pathways that formed spontaneously as they walked. The archive structures around them showed glimpses of their contents. Elena caught brief flashes of alien civilizations achieving transcendence. Consciousness merging with technology, of beings of pure thought creating wonders that spanned galaxies. The first test, the Guardian announced, stopping before a wall of flowing light. Other species attempt to solve this through mathematical analysis or technological interface. Must find a different way. Elena stared at the wall, trying to understand what she was supposed to do. The surface showed complex patterns that shifted and changed, but there was no obvious mechanism or control interface. What exactly are we supposed to accomplish? The wall contains compressed knowledge of quantum healing techniques. To access it, you must demonstrate understanding of consciousness itself. Most species try to decode the patterns logically. Humans, however, might try a different approach. Marcus stepped closer to the wall, his scientific training taking over. The patterns appear to be quantum consciousness signatures, but they're too complex for mathematical analysis. It's like trying to understand a symphony by measuring the frequency of individual notes. Zara had been quietly observing the wall's behavior. The patterns aren't random, she said suddenly. They're responding to our presence, changing based on our emotional states and thoughts. It's not a puzzle to be solved. It's a consciousness trying to communicate. Elena had a sudden insight. What if we don't try to decode it at all? What if we just ... talk to it? She placed her hand on the wall's surface, feeling a warm, tingling sensation as quantum energy flowed through her fingers. Instead of trying to analyze the patterns, she simply spoke to the wall as if it were a person. We need your help, she said quietly. There's an entire civilization dying and we don't know how to save them. We're not the smartest people in the galaxy, and we don't have the most advanced technology, but we're here because we care. Can you help us understand what we need to know? The wall's patterns suddenly stabilized, forming clear images that showed the quantum healing process in terms so simple that even Elena could understand them. The knowledge flowed directly into their minds, not as data to be memorized, but as understanding to be felt. Remarkable, the Guardian said, its energy form brightening. You achieved in moments what takes other species hours of analysis. You treated the archive consciousness as a living entity rather than a database to be accessed. Princess Lorona was glowing with excitement. You can feel the knowledge settling into your consciousness patterns. You now understand the theoretical basis of quantum healing, but the practical application requires the actual device. The Guardian led them deeper into the archive, through chambers that defied three-dimensional geometry and corridors that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Elena's crew adapted to the impossible architecture. With the same intuitive flexibility they had shown in navigating the quantum storms. The second test, the Guardian announced as they entered a vast chamber dominated by a floating sphere of pure quantum energy. The healing device lies within that sphere, but accessing it requires a sacrifice that most species are unwilling to make. Elena approached the sphere cautiously. Up close, she could see that it contained not just the device. They sought but hundreds of other artifacts of incredible power. What kind of sacrifice? The device can only be retrieved by someone willing to give up their individual consciousness temporarily, merging with the archive collective to prove their selfless intent. Most beings fear the loss of personal identity, even temporarily. Marcus paled. You're asking one of us to merge our consciousness with an alien collective? It could destroy our individual personality permanently? It could, the Guardian agreed. or it could expand your understanding of consciousness in ways that benefit not just your mission, but your entire species' future development. Alina looked at her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that had carried them through every impossible challenge so far. "I'll do it," she said simply. "Alina, no," Zara protested. "We don't know what that could do to you." "Actually," Princess Lorena said quietly, "Captain Rodriguez may be the ideal candidate. Human consciousness already contains the quantum chaos patterns that make archive merger less dangerous. Your neural flexibility could allow you to maintain individual identity while temporarily joining the collective." Alina approached the sphere, feeling quantum energy wash over her like warm water. "What do I need to do?" "Simply touch the sphere and open your mind to the experience. Do not fight the merger. Allow your consciousness to flow into the collective while maintaining awareness of who you are and why you are here." Alina placed both hands on the sphere's surface and immediately felt her consciousness expanding in ways she had never imagined possible. Suddenly, she was connected to thousands of ancient minds, experiencing the accumulated wisdom of civilizations that had transcended physical existence eons ago. But instead of losing herself in the vastness of the collective, Alina found that her human adaptability allowed her to remain grounded in her own identity. She was Alina Rodriguez, captain of the Resilience, protector of her crew, and the last hope for saving the ethereal collective. Within the archive consciousness, she could perceive the quantum healing device clearly. More than that, she understood its true purpose and power. The device wasn't just a medical tool. It was a consciousness amplifier that could restore the quantum coherence patterns of an entire species. With effort that felt like lifting a mountain with her mind, Alina reached through the collective consciousness and grasped the device. The moment her mental essence touched it, she understood everything: how to operate it, how to modify it for the ethereal specific quantum signature, and most importantly, why it had taken humans to retrieve it. The device required operators with quantum chaos in their neural patterns to function properly. The random creative elements in human consciousness were the key to its operation. No other species possessed the right combination of order and chaos needed to control such powerful technology. Alina withdrew from the collective consciousness gradually, feeling like she was surfacing from the deepest ocean dive in history. When her awareness fully returned to her physical body, she found herself holding a device that looked deceptively simple: a crystalline structure, about the size of her fist, that pulsed with gentle quantum energy. "How do you feel?" Marcus asked anxiously. "Different," Alina replied honestly. "I can still feel echoes of the archive collective in my mind, but I'm still me. More than that, I understand things now that I never could have learned any other way." The Guardian's form had become brighter, radiating approval. "You have passed both tests, not through superior knowledge or power, but through the uniquely human combination of empathy, adaptability, and willingness to sacrifice for others. The healing device is yours, but more than that, you have earned the archive's recognition of humanity as a consciousness-capable species." Princess Leona was practically vibrating with excitement. "Captain, do you understand what this means? Humanity has just been acknowledged by the oldest consciousness collective in the galaxy. Your species will be invited to join the Council of Transcendent Races." Alina looked at the device in her hands, feeling its quantum energies responding to her thoughts. "Right now, I'm more concerned with saving your people. How long do we have to get this back to them? If we leave immediately and reverse our path through the quantum storms, we can reach ethereal space within 2 days. My people's quantum decay rate suggests we will arrive with approximately 48 hours to spare." As they made their way back to the Resilience, Alina reflected on how much had changed since they had first received the impossible request to transport an alien princess. They had navigated quantum storms that should have destroyed them, communicated with consciousness entities older than human civilization, and retrieved a device that could save an entire species from extinction. "You know," Zara said, as they reached their ship, "when we started this mission, I thought the princess had made a mistake choosing us. I'm starting to think she knew exactly what she was doing." Princess Lorena understood something about humans that we're only beginning to discover ourselves, Alina replied. Our supposed weaknesses, our chaos, our unpredictability, our tendency to try impossible solutions, these aren't flaws, they're exactly what the galaxy needs. The return journey through the quantum storms was faster than their initial passage. The storm consciousness entities recognized them as friends now, creating stable corridors of calm space that allowed the resilience to travel at speeds that should have been impossible in such turbulent regions. Marcus had spent the journey studying the quantum healing device, working with Princess Leorona to understand its operation. The device amplifies and stabilizes quantum consciousness patterns, he explained to Alina as they approached ethereal space. But it requires a human operator because our neural chaos provides the random elements needed to counteract the plagues. Structured decay patterns. So we're not just delivering the cure, Alina realized. We're part of it. Exactly. The device was designed by the first ones, specifically to be operated by species with quantum chaos in their consciousness patterns. They foresaw that rigid logical species would eventually face threats that required creative, chaotic solutions. When they finally reached the ethereal collective's home region, Alina was amazed by what she saw. Vast clouds of quantum energy drifted through space like luminous fog, occasionally coalescing into ship-like forms or architectural structures before dissolving back into pure consciousness. "My people," Princess Lorena said, her voice filled with emotion. "I can feel their relief that we have returned." They were beginning to lose hope. The healing process took place in the heart of the ethereal collective's consciousness matrix. Alina, guided by the device and her newfound understanding of quantum consciousness, worked with Marcus and Zara to stabilize the decay patterns that had been consuming the ethereal civilization. The device responded to their combined human consciousness like a perfectly tuned instrument. Alina provided the creative chaos needed to break the plague's structured patterns. Marcus contributed the scientific understanding needed to target the quantum decay precisely. And Zara added the empathetic connection that helped them understand the ethereal's pain and worked to heal it gently. For 6 hours, they worked together, watching as the quantum plague's destructive patterns dissolved under the healing device's influence. Billions of ethereal consciousness patterns stabilized and began to regenerate, their quantum coherence restored to healthy levels. "It is done," Princess Leorena announced, her form now blazing with renewed vitality. "My people are saved, and it is entirely due to humanity's unique gifts." As they prepared to return to normal space, Alina found herself forever changed by the experience. The knowledge she had gained from the Archive Collective had expanded her understanding of consciousness and humanity's place in the galaxy. They were not the newest or weakest species among the stars. They were the chaos bringers, the pattern breakers, the ones who could find solutions when all logical approaches failed. "Captain Rodriguez," Princess Lorona said as they said there, "farewells. Your species has earned the eternal gratitude of the Ethereal Collective. But more than that, you have proven that consciousness itself benefits from diversity. The galaxy needs logical species and chaotic species, order and creativity, structure and adaptation." Alina smiled, looking at her crew with pride. "We just did what humans do best. We refused to accept that the impossible was actually impossible." "And that," the princess replied, "is exactly why the galaxy needs humans among the stars." As the Resilience departed ethereal space, Alina knew that their simple cargo hauling days were over. Humanity had found its true calling among the stars, not as conquerors or merchants, but as the consciousness healers and problem solvers for challenges that rigid thinking couldn't overcome. The quantum healing device rested in their cargo hold, but Alina knew it was just the beginning. The Archive Collective had recognized humanity as consciousness capable, and that recognition would open doors to adventures and challenges they could barely imagine. "So, Captain," Marcus said, as they set course for their next destination, "what do you think our next impossible mission will be?" Alina grinned, feeling the familiar excitement of facing the unknown. "I don't know, but I'm sure it will be something that shouldn't be possible according to everyone except humans." The stars ahead of them seemed brighter somehow, full of possibility and promise. Humanity had found its place among the consciousness-capable species of the galaxy, and Alina couldn't wait to discover what other impossible things they would be asked to accomplish. The Resilience flew on through the cosmic night, carrying its crew toward whatever impossible challenge awaited them next. Secure in the knowledge that human creativity and adaptability could overcome any obstacle the universe could devise, their greatest adventures were still ahead of them.